I basically started asking you in our fake consultation 3 really basic, super basic, broad things: goals, exercise history, and your current injuries.
Mm,
And
mm.
then do you remember what you said, or?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I went into quite a bit of detail with Adrian, mostly as a sort of a push against all the clients who just give one word answers. You're like, nah, that doesn't give me enough. Come on, give me more. So I'll try not to go into the kind of detail that I went into with Adrian, but very briefly with goals, yeah, I told him that my primary goal, I guess, is just health. Whatever's going to support my longest, healthiest lifespan. I think that should be everyone's sort of main goal, really. But then, in addition to that, trying to increase strength, but keeping body weight down for climbing, which I'm really into, and also just some aesthetic stuff. Generally, just sort of feeling confident, looking good, that kind of stuff. What was the second one? Exercise history was, yeah, I told Adrian that I've been lifting for about 5, 6 years, doing climbing for maybe 3 or 4, and yoga for a couple of years. Oh, and martial arts as well for about 4 years or something. So I've been pretty active in the last 5 years. That was quite a change from the time before. It was sort of a bit of a life turnaround, but made up for lost time. And in terms of injuries, yes, all of them. Currently, currently still got this sort of recurring twinge in my shoulder now and again. Mostly when benching, if my form lapses and I lose that scapular depression. So some sort of AC joint thing. I don't know really what's going on there, but sort of mostly manageable. Doesn't hurt all the time. And as well, yeah, I had fractures in my back in my early 20s, so I sort of dealt with a lot of ongoing pain over the last sort of decade as a result of that. But again, that's mostly well manageable by the sort of strength and resistance training I've been doing. So yeah, not too much that was pressing in terms of current injuries. I can't remember if I feel like I said something else, Adrian. I don't know if you got the notes in front of you. I don't.
I do. Yeah. I'm lucky enough I have 2 monitors for this kind of thing because used to be a tech nerd. Yeah, so there's lots going on. So I got lots of information. And so as a trainer, I'm parsing through that information to try to tease out where I fit in. Right? So when somebody says health and, healthiest life, physical and mental health and things like that, I have to look at the time scale that is involved in this, right? So if I'm talking about Ali here, I'm doing 1 session, right? So is there anything I can do in 1 session that might give a little bit of benefit to his life? Probably not, maybe a tiny bit. So I'm not going to focus a lot of my attention. So I didn't focus a lot of my attention on goal number 1, which would be a far better goal to focus on if we were training together 10, 20, 30 sessions, because then I think we could really develop something together. 2, pain reduction. So I'm keeping this one in the back of my mind the whole time because there's a small chance that Ali hasn't had a chance to have somebody watch him do things. And so if I'm seeing a pull-up, right, which he can do, but it's like this, right, and he's really favoring, well, I don't know if you saw my shoulders, I hope you did, but he's really favoring one side, like you really feel you're seeing pull-ups like this or something that I can spot that would be very difficult for him to spot for himself. I'm keeping that in the back of my mind. But again, that's not helping me too much with my session design yet. Strength, endurance, and climbing, and then physique and aesthetics. So there's the quick and easy win. Strength, and we could do a strength workout. Right? 3rd goal down the list was strength. So that's where I'm going to focus my attention because we can do a strength workout. So looking at all of the injuries, I didn't get a sense that any of them are acute existing injuries that make me want to say, oh, okay, you have to go to a healthcare practitioner to get cleared for exercise. Right? So keep them in the back of mind, right? Keep them in the back of my mind and don't be like, okay, it's warm up. Let's do 10 muscle ups. And then I want you to invert and do hanging curls, right? Like we're not Cirque du Soleil here, right? So I just have to be careful and warm them up properly and get them going and keep an idea of what's going on. And the one that was most concerning for me was the fractures in the back and high volume deadlifts or back extensions. So I said, okay, I want to do a back day, but I don't want it to have anything to do with those kinds of movements. So I asked him if he had a pull-up bar. right? Do you have a pull-up bar? Do you have straps so that we can take the grip out of the equation just on the off chance? And then it looks like you do have access to that stuff, so that's fantastic. And then I asked, okay, in the past, what's a good set of pull-ups for you, like a good solid set? To which you said,
Yeah, sort of mid-teens, like 14, 16, something like that.
right. And then you also let me know that the way you're progressing was to add weight.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, most of the pull-up sets I've done in the last sort of 6 months, I'd say, if not all of them, have been weighted using a plate with a little belt. I can just hang it from my waist.
Okay.
So I've been using 10 kilos and then more recently 15 kilos.
Yeah. And so then I thought to myself, okay, so, I was looking at the muscle activation during a pull-up, and a huge amount of it is core. And core is really, really safe to do with somebody. As long as you don't do anything preposterous, you can really work core with stranger, right? We've talked, but I've never seen, it'd be very different if we'd been working out next to each other in the gym for months because we work at the same gym, right? But I've never seen how he works, but core is super safe. So I was like, awesome. Can you do ring L sits? Can you do because that's a really tough exercise. So I just want to get a sense of that. And so based on that, I said, okay, strength and likes to climb. And I've helped clients before progress to a one-arm pull-up. So maybe because Ali is working towards weighted pull-ups, we could try a variation that moves towards one arm instead of two-arm pull-ups, which might be a little bit different. And then, so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do some mobility work to warm you up, right? A lot of shoulder-based stuff on the floor. We're going to look at vertical scapular movement, so depression, horizontal scapular movement, so retractions, and then we're going to get into a pull-up progression to single arm pull-ups. And then if I don't run out of time, we have hanging core work, right? So knee tucks, L-sit, hanging L-sit, right? Toes to bar. There's lots of, depending on where Ali's energy level's like, right? And so that sort of lays out my plan where I'm going to avoid areas of trouble. I'm going to focus on the goals, and there we go.
Amazing.
Questions?
Yeah, I was just thinking if I have any at this point, and I don't think I do. I love that you took into account that it was just the one session. Like you really actually your mindset was like, let's provide as much value as I can for this one session, rather than taking the easy way out of like, right, well, let's just pretend it's the first session of many. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other aspect of that, I use that for the one session, but I use that in my day-to-day practice. I typically sell 10 packs. I've been starting to ask my existing clients if that makes sense. Do you want me to get a billing system where I can charge you monthly, blah, blah, blah. So, but I've been sort of sitting on this whole 10-pack thing for a long time. And so that's where my framework is. So I have a client that I work with early in the morning who's just finishing up his second 10-pack. And so the same discourse is going to happen towards the end of his second 10-pack that happened towards the end of his first 10-pack, which was, we're on session 7, 8. We're like, okay, we've done all of these movements. We repeated them several times. If you'd like to continue training, I continue to progress with you, or I could produce a PDF which talks through all the exercise that we've been doing for these 10 sessions that you can keep for your life. Because at the end of the day, if they're not going to continue training with you, you want them to continue training in general. And I've definitely had this in the past where somebody's following my workout here. Like, here's the workout that I gave you in PDF form, and they come back 5 or 6 months later being like, I'm bored, I want to do something new. So they hire you again, right? Because the workout that you handed them, they're done with.
But they're still with you. Like in the workouts, they're still like relating to your workouts.
And like in the corner of my workout is my logo. So like every time they open the workout, they see Train with Adrian.
And on the back of the page, it's a full-blown picture of your face as well.
No, well, it's PDF usually, but PDF. But yeah, that if it was a physical thing, it would definitely be branded, right? My colors would be there, my logo would be on it, my website would be at the bottom, and then the workout would be there, because there's nothing like there's an amazing amount of value to somebody seeing your name over and over and over and over again, right? And again, even if you don't ever see them as your client again, they're gonna refer somebody, right? And that's worked way better. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to echo that I love that. I think that's really, creating that value. I think that's really considerate of people. And I think that goes a long way to build trust with your clients. Because like you said, it sounds like you have a lot of clients that really love that 10-pack, because I feel like sometimes when people look at personal training or think about personal training and they're in that contemplation stage, they're like, wait, I don't necessarily have the time or money to commit to a year or 6 months, but you know what, I can commit, maybe it's easier for them to tell themselves, yeah, I can commit to 10 sessions. That's 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and then, they like it and they want to continue, great. But also knowing that, especially if you even tell them up front, at the end of our 10 sessions, I will give you a PDF with everything that we've worked on. And if you're good to go, you can go off and then, great, or you can come back, you can continue. It gives people options instead of people feeling like I need to hire a personal trainer for 6 months or a year just to reach my goals. It's like,
yes, like a feeling like it'll actually end, which is to get people in the door. Some people need that. I think I agree.
Exactly. Well, and it's also a psychological thing. So I feel like so much of training, whether you are the person training or you are the trainer, I feel like a lot of it is a psychological game. And have you guys heard of the book 12-Week Year? It's like the psychology behind setting 12-week goals or looking at your year in 12-week increments. It's sort of like, and it also goes to the saying that, people overestimate what they can do for a year, in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years or 7 years. And so instead of saying looking at your, so if you were a client looking, and you have these lofty goals, instead of thinking, oh, well, in order to get to my goals, I need to train hardcore for 2 years, or, and so, that can be overwhelming. That can seem expensive. I think that can seem like a barrier for people. People are just scared to get started. They'll procrastinate. But if they know, oh, I can just work on 10, 12-week goals at a time, take it one step at a time. I can take breaks when I need to, I think that's an awesome approach, Adrian. And I'm probably going to steal that. Sorry.
Oh, please. Everything is all of my secrets are still secret.
The 10-pack is trademarked by Adrian.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm getting royalties from all trainers everywhere, right?
Exactly. Just throw up your Venmo in the chat, and I'll Venmo you like $20.
$5. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a big one. The value for the session. A lot of the other part of it, unfortunately, is really just experience. If this was my first client, I would probably try some combination of squat, bench, deadlift, because my exercise library would be a lot smaller than it is now.
I feel personally attacked. Go on.
No, it's a really great. It is a really great.
Those exercises.
Oh, of course, you should. You should, and there's so much bang for your buck on them, right? But they're definitely, and one of the magical parts about those exercises that's really wonderful is that it probably takes a lot of sessions to get good at them
to
and
nail
to get some
them.
progress. Yeah,
and keep progressing.
Yeah. Which is great for business, right? Don't teach super easy things if you want people to keep coming back. You want some complexity, right?
Adrian, if I could,
yeah,
something I wanted to add real quick. So, curious. So your whole strategy here, where you offer the PDF after the 10 weeks, and I said, on the one hand, I kind of like it, and I've done this before too, where you're kind of planting seeds. You have kind of a big group of people, and you try to do your best with everyone. And sometimes people take a break, and then they come back maybe a couple months later. They come back a year later. But then I also see sometimes if you offer something like that, like a PDF, at least I've noticed with some people, they just think, oh, well, can't you just write me a workout and then you know, oh, I'll be good, and then, you know, I guess I'll check in or something like that 4 months later. And I think like if you have gone with the person for 10 weeks, right, just in terms of like periodization, I would think, well, you know, probably need to introduce some new exercises at this point. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, if I just give you a write-up of what we've done for the past 10 weeks, is it actually going to be useful for you? I don't know. How do you handle that?
Yeah. So I do 10 packs, and I don't really, there's got to be some sort of unusual exception for me to allow somebody to train with me less than twice a week. So
you're
a 10
okay.
pack is typically 5 weeks,
That
but it's
makes
quite
sense.
often
Okay.
less than that.
Yeah.
So I don't really, and it took a lot of courage. You know, it's probably only been about 3 consultations where I have literally said, I'm not accepting clients that don't train more than twice a week. That don't train twice a week or 3 times a week or more. I'm not accepting once a week clients. And I was sweating. If I looked confident, I was not confident. But I said that, and it's worked every time. And so in the twice a week, 10 pack, 5 weeks, you're right. It would be essentially in the terms of periodization, them repeating the same period that they just finished, right? And so I talk about that a little bit. And I also do my best to ensure they have some concept of progression built into that. But I also will say, look, the things that I'm giving you in this PDF are quite limited. Are probably in the realm of maintenance, and you'll see a plateau pretty quickly, but it's better to have these things in your life and keep doing them than not.
Yeah, it's like
right?
I think it's like a little bonus as opposed to being like their program forever.
Yeah. It's like an interesting thing. You have to like argue both sides a little bit sometimes, because in one sense you're saying, well, this is definitely of value to you, but I also don't want to play it up like, oh, you could just run with this workout for the rest of your life. You're set.
Yeah,
right?
It's got to be
you
framed
also got to
well.
somehow, frame it in such a way that they keep coming back. So it's a tough thing to do.
It's also something I introduce at the end. It's not included in the beginning discussion of what you're getting. Right. So they're not coming into this thinking, unless they are, right? But they're not coming into this thinking that they're going to do 10 sessions with me, and then at the end of the 10 sessions have an endurance phase, strength hypertrophy phase, power phase for all the different major muscle groups based on what we've done. Now, if they do come to me asking for that, I will work with them and make sure that they're skilled enough to be able to accept a program like that. But at that point, I would also sort of start pointing them towards books. Right, like why didn't you go read 531? Why didn't you go read this method, that method? Like, what's not working for you? Why do you have a personal trainer here to create a periodized program for you? Right. And so then, those all ask questions, right? The other side of it is I've found, broadly speaking, in the clients that I've had over the years, that you have people that come to you because they just need an appointment and accountability, and they need some time, right? There's been quite a few moms that if they're paying for the session and they're going somewhere to do something, they can actually just be about them. Right? It's not, they can say to their partner, like, look, you've got to watch the kids. It's not my turn, right? Like one couple that I work with, the husband is a super awkward mega nerd that's like calculating the rate that glaciers are melting using mathematical models and physics and stuff like that. Like super interesting stuff, but not really that interesting. But anyway, so when it's workout time, when the computer's off, the kid is in the stroller, they're going to the park to hang out for an hour, because now is her time to spend 1 hour investing in herself. So those types of clients, you typically don't need those kinds of things. You keep them happy, you keep going, and you have a client for months or years, right? But if you have clients that are way more goal-oriented, very specific goal-oriented, with experience, you can start telling them numbers, right? like I had a yoga, late 60s ish gentleman who only did yoga, and his doctor's like, you're losing muscle, you need to do some resistance training. So he's like, I want to hire you to give me a plan that I can just do. I've got like an 18-year-old yoga practice. I can go do things. How many sessions do you think it'll take before I know how to do some strength training in the gym with the weights? Right. And I was like, I don't know, 8 to 12 sessions, right, to get all the movements down safely. It took 19 or 18. It took 18 sessions. But in theory, he now competently, and like those sessions are way different than the like sort of continuous style, because there are entire sessions where I basically don't instruct. I'm like, here's your workout PDF, go. And then I'm just silent. Because if they can't prove that they're doing it, then what value is what I've given to them?
That's quite a cool idea. I've never heard of a trainer doing that.
Yeah, well, because we have an agreement that at the end of the sessions with me, they need to be competently and safely doing these moves. So if they've never done these moves without being like, okay, no, put the bike thing to level 8, okay, change the resistance to 4, okay, your heart rate here, okay, your rotations per minute has to be above 80 there. If it's always me, the moment I'm gone, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah, like dependency.
Yeah.
So I have a little thing that I give out to clients as well. It's on paper, and it's I mean, it's kind of random really, but it's more or less the first 3 sessions we'll go through all the big exercises we're likely to do. So it's got all the kind of cheat sheet, just reminders of good technique for those exercises, and then just like random tidbits on what I think will help, like reduce food intake and stuff like that. So a bit different, but I definitely think it's valuable, and it's got my little logo and all that branding stuff on. So I think it's good. Like mirror exposure, it's called, isn't it? Mirror exposure. It's like basically the psychology that even just seeing somebody for a split second makes like 100 times, say, like your neighbors, makes you trust them quite a lot. Like you've probably got neighbors who you've seen 100 times, but maybe you've not hung out with them at all. But you'd give like, your child to them, like for them to look after, just because you've seen them so many times. So yeah, it's a cool word for that.
Neat. That is cool. So yeah, that side of it. Other thoughts, questions on, I mean, is anybody going to come check out the session? It's
Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, the 24th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, Eastern. Yeah,
So
I'm coming unless
5,
it's like
so 6:30.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'll do. I'm in.
Cool.
I was thinking, Adrian,
yeah.
Do you want me to rock up there 5-10 minutes early and just get on the rower, do some general
No, come cold.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's good. I'd rather that. And it'd be great, because I would love the feedback. I like to warm people up that know how to exercise, because then they give me feedback and be like, yeah, no, I'm still cold. And then that challenges me to be like, oh, okay, right? And then the other side of it is that some people warm up so hard that they actually can't do a great workout. So then they warm up with me, and then if I get it right, which I don't always do, but if I get it right, all of a sudden they're stronger. I'm like, I'm so much stronger than I normally am. I'm like, nah, what was your warm up? How long did your warm up take before? 25 minutes. I'm like, aha, yeah, we're done in 5. You're still fresh. Let's lift. You're going to get your best numbers now, right? But anyway, yes, I'd love to do the warm up with you, because I'm totally going to ask you a bunch of questions after.
Yeah, cool. No, absolutely fine. No problem.
Yeah, I have other things I want to talk about, but I've talked a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to hear more, Adrian. Is anybody else got any specific business for us?
Only that, yeah, I'd love the opportunity to practice on one of you guys. I know Casey volunteered to let me practice with her, just because I already have quite a few inquiries for people who want to train with me, and nearly all of them are complete beginners, like have only walked outside as exercise for the last 5 years, we need to start with the absolute basics, core stabilization, and I know a lot of them want to get into strength training, but we'll get to that eventually, you know, so I probably need to, because it sounds like I'm going to have a lot of sessions like that coming up. So I think some practice would be great.
Well, I'm more than happy to volunteer as a guinea pig again. I've got plenty of free time at the moment.
Well, if that wouldn't be too boring for you.
No, not at all. Be interesting.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help out as well because that's my bread and butter. Beginner fitness is my bread and butter. I would say, 60+% of what I do is folks that don't exercise.
But also, yeah, if any of you guys set up sessions with each other too, I would love to shadow. Just because I feel like just watching, like you learn so much, or at least I love to learn from other people, no matter what I'm doing, and yeah, I feel like you can learn a lot just from watching other trainers train.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I think this one is open to everybody. I think Adrian's just hit up the chat. By the way, Adrian, quick thing. Did you send me a Zoom link on WhatsApp? I hope you did.
Yeah, I think I did. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I was like, random Zoom link.
Oh yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your credit card subscribed to some sort of thing. Like, what is this? Okay. No, there is no secret WhatsApp.
No, otherwise I'd have known who he was.
It's long distance. It's to avoid long distance charges and stuff.
That's why I didn't know who he was.
That's all. I prefer Signal. Because WhatsApp privacy policy is a little but whatever. We're just doing Zoom links, so it's not a lot. Okay, Chris, I wanted to do world's best stretch. Are you up for it?
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah. Any chance that you could like literally do it right now?
Give it a go.
Yeah, like do you have space to be from standing to a plank?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So set up your camera. Let's do world's best stretch. I love this stretch. I want everybody to use this stretch forever. If the client is far enough along to be able to do it.
Is this the world's best stretch that like Squat University talks about?
I'm not sure. Let me just check here. Squat University world's best stretch. Squat unit. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's awesome.
I missed last week. What is this?
Well, we missed it last week too. We actually did. We ran out of time, so we didn't get a chance to do it last week.
I don't think anybody really quite knows what this is going to be yet.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
If you've ever done yoga, you'll know it.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so there's a lot of pieces to it. So I'll go through the most important, and then if it's going really well in terms of pace and you're feeling good, we'll do more. Awesome. Yeah, looks fantastic. All right, sweet. So let's just go from standing to plank by walking your hands out into a push-up position. Yeah, beautiful. Put your knees down for now because I don't want to fatigue you here yet. Take a look at your knuckles. So your left hand knuckles and your right hand knuckles, they'll make a line, right, from left to right if you gaze like this. And walk your right foot to be outside of your right hand. So the knuckles of your left hand follows the knuckles of your right hand, follows the knuckles of your right foot, which is now outside of your right hand. So just walk that right foot out. So it's going to be outside. Yeah, there it is. Good. Put the rear knee down. We're not going to get into the harder version of this. So now as you look down, you've got yourself knuckles of your left hand is in the same line as the knuckles of your right hand, which is in the same line as the knuckles of your right foot. Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, from here, taking your right hand, the one that's inside that knee, just try to touch the ceiling. Keep your left hand on the ground. Yeah, there it is. Good. And then from here, you forgot something on the ground. So reach through your armpit in the left side and reach to the ground. You forgot something on the ground. So reach for it with your right hand. Reach through that. Get low. Reach. Yeah, good. Touch the ceiling. Get higher. Touch the ceiling. Yes, good. Reach for that thing that you missed. Reach for that. Get low. Reach in there. Yes, good. Okay, now let's put your right hand down on the inside of your right foot. Okay, excellent. I'm not worried about how you do it. Just trade your legs. Right foot back, left foot forward to do the same thing. Beautiful. Okay, so now left foot forward, left hand is working. Touch the ceiling with the left hand. Find that thing in your armpit. Reach through, get low, go. Reach. Yes, good. Now touch the ceiling. Reach through. Good. So this is a great point to check in. Chris, are you tired? Is this really hard?
It's not easy.
Okay, so switch up your legs again, and we're just going to go to the better version of this. Okay, left foot, rear foot, curl the toes underneath and pick up that knee. So now you're in a lunge position. Now, same movements, let your hips come with. So when you reach the ceiling, hips get high. Reach for the ceiling with that right hand open, hips get high. As you reach into your armpit, down below, hips get low. Feel that? A little bit more intense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good. Up to the sky. Good. Into the armpit.
Yeah.
Good. Back to neutral. Now transition through a proper plank. Kick that right foot back into a proper plank. Good. Left foot forward to the outside. There you go. Left foot forward means left arm is doing the work. Up. Left arm up. Armpit. Good. Up. Armpit. Good. Okay, both hands down. Put that rear knee down. Put that rear knee down. Okay, we're going to stretch your left hamstring. So start to sit back. Walk your hips back. Walk your hips back like you're going to sit on your right foot. Yeah, sit on your right foot. Start to extend your left leg. Toes to the sky with your left leg. Toes to the sky with your left leg. Yeah, extend that leg. How's that feeling there?
Yeah, feel the stretch.
Okay, you're scooping ice cream. Your hands, scooping ice cream and back to your chest. Yep. One hand on the outside of the knee, one hand on the inside of the knee. Scoop ice cream towards your foot, back to your chest, scoop towards your foot, back to your chest. Two more. Good. Walk your hands down to the ground on the inside of your left foot.
Yeah.
All the way forward, forward, forward. Now you can dynamically switch to the other side. So let's go left foot back, right foot forward. Walk your butt back, walk your butt back. Get that right foot long. Toes up, toes up, toes up. Okay, right hand on the outside, left hand on the inside. Scoop the ice cream, reach for your foot. Yeah, get that hamstring stretch and keep moving, keep moving. Two more. Good, one more. Good, hands down on the inside of your foot. Good. Bring that knee forward. Come to a proper plank, top of a push-up. Walk your hands to your feet, bum high. Walk your hands to your feet. Slowly come up to standing. Good. Stretched and maybe a little warm.
Definitely warm. I'm a bit too sweaty for stretch.
Yeah, you feel all right?
Yeah.
So that's my version of the world's greatest stretch.
That's rep 1, 10 reps.
Yeah. So with that, where the part about that movement that I love and why I think it's so good is because somewhere in the middle of all of that is a plank. And how many different things do you know that you can go to from a plank? Right? So client's tired, plank to child pose. Client loves yoga or you're doing some back work. You're going to see this later, Ali. Client go from plank to child's pose, from child's pose to up dog, from up dog to down dog, right? So with that, because that middle position is plank, high plank, you have like a ton of places to go. Anyway, so that's world's greatest stretch. So now, or world's best stretch, now I have finally delivered on my promise.
Now you've got another promise you got to deliver on, Adrian.
What's that?
On the website.
Oh, yes. So we got locked down 2 more weeks.
Moon option.
We got locked down 2 more weeks. I was supposed to launch tomorrow with my $2,000 package. We're locked down for 2 more weeks, so I can get fined pretty hard if I open tomorrow.
Right.
So yes, keep holding it to me, but it'll have to be like end of first week of March.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. I didn't forget. Yeah, actually, last week I charged somebody the highest I've ever charged anyone, but I'm not going to reveal how much that is.
Oh.
I mean, yeah.
Was it for like a year package?
Oh, sorry, the highest per session amount.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The longest I've sold is I have a gentleman that does 3 months at a time with me, but I'm literally there for accountability.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say you charge them the highest amount, was that based on it being a particular issue, like a particular difficult issue to work through, or just that the client was a bit of a twat and you thought, oh, sod him?
No, there's a bit of an issue of me undervaluing my sessions.
Yeah.
That was
we
the
were talking
issue.
about it a bit like last week as well, right?
That was the issue, me being scared that I'm not worth it, but
And slowly having the confidence to actually charge what you are worth and what the teachings are worth and what the whole thing's worth.
I'm still working on that one.
Yeah.
Not easy.
No,
Cool.
I feel like, that might be like almost like a good way. Have you been seeing, or I don't know if it's just my Instagram feed or it's just me, but how often, like, I feel like or a lot of people feel like this in a lot of professions, like imposter syndrome, where you feel like even though, we're almost like professionals in this kind of industry, but I still feel like I shouldn't be given this advice because I don't feel like I'm enough of a professional, or I don't know enough. Like that, it's like called imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you belong to what you're doing almost.
Use it as motivation, I'd say, but it's one of these things where you can get caught in it, because it can just become this thing in your head that even when you're way past the point of, like, even when it's ridiculous to think that, you could still theoretically think that. And I do know people like that, and there's areas where I'm like that as well, like like teaching of certain lifts, for example. I'm like, oh well, I could be missing something, and it's like, dude, like what you know about the lifts is more than good enough to provide loads of value. So I would say, like, the two-pronged approach, which is like yield to it because you may, as well as motivation, but then also realize that if you're giving somebody advice and you do know what you're talking about on that thing, then yeah, it's just like, be confident and like don't yield to it. It's a kind of weird way of explaining it, but it's
I've been brought up to think about worst case scenarios. And so my worst case scenario, let's say somebody does, they're asking me to teach them some lifts and something like that. And they're like, oh, I'm a pretty good lifter. My squat's 315, blah, blah, blah. I want to hire you to help fix it up. Right? What's the worst case scenario? You get in there, they're better than you at squatting, and you have to give them that session's value back. You just pay them back. You just be honest with them. Be like, that squat's awesome. Can you show me how to squat? By the way, here's a refund for your session. Right?
Yeah, and frankly,
99 out of 100 times they're on their toes, knees over toes. The bar is sitting on their neck, and you're like, how are you not dead if you squatted 315 like that?
Yeah,
right. That's like usually the encounter. But like, and for the reason I bring that up is because it let me breathe a little. Be like, wait a second. If I'm just honest with the person and I have nothing to teach. Right, they're not going to take me out back and beat me up.
There's a way out. Like you've got this way out, like worst case scenario way out. And I would say, I mean, obviously this is not quite worst case scenario. I mean, neither of them are worst case scenario, but in a scenario like that, they would be like, okay, well, this person has just told me 7 things about my squat that's optimal. So in a way, that's really valuable, right?
Yeah. Or you could just be like, hey, I'm a spotter right now, so try a number that you're not comfortable with, because at least you've got a spotter.
Yeah, but I think the verifying is good. If I went to a trainer and they were like good, then I'd be like, well, what the fuck? But if they were like, like this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, I'd be like, that's kind of money well spent in a way. Especially if the person was honest about how how much they know about it, and if they didn't know enough about it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree that paying for validation can be worth it, because honestly, like, that's what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm paying a trainer to train me as I'm lifting heavier, because like I can't, see myself in real time. I mean, I have a mirror in front of me, but I can't see myself, I can't see my squats from the side. I can't see my deadlifts from the side, stuff like that. I want someone, as I'm lifting heavier, to watch me to make sure I'm not going to, hurt myself. So, even though she's not necessarily like walking me, like, I already know how to squat, I already know how to deadlift, but she's there just to be like, you're good, and I'm paying for that. And I feel that's money well spent. So,
yeah, I'm getting some consulting off a power lifter, and it's a similar sort of situation. Almost everything we just completely agree on, but it's good to have it there. It's good to have the accountability, somebody pushing you. So
it's the thing holding you back from progressing is your own uncertainty about whether you can push yourself, whether you're solid enough to be able to go that extra mile. Then even just hearing, yeah, everything's fine, go for it, can be a massive win. That can be incredibly useful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one way to go over the imposter syndrome. And then I also believe in fake it till you make it in terms of your your bearing. Don't fake it till you make it and teach a lift you don't know how to teach. That isn't imposter syndrome. That's just being an imposter, right? But the life-changing speech or discussion that I heard was from George St. Pierre, who's a UFC fighter or whichever, and he's famous for talking about how scared he is all the time. Like he fights in a perpetual state of fear. And he talks about his walkout, right? Which is like, if the fight's about to happen, he's in the locker room and he's got to walk out, which is going to be very dramatic. But he's got to walk out from the locker room through the audience to the side of the cage. And then very shortly, he's going to be fighting somebody who's trying to knock his block off, right? And in that walkout, he says that the way that he gets ready is he moves like he's a championship fighter that's going to win. And then his mindset does what his body is doing. It moves into a championship fighter mindset, right? So
motion creates emotion.
Yeah, and so he moves like that, and that's what's helped me the most. Act like a confident trainer, move confidently, set up the weights just right, spot them properly. Keep moving confidently, and as hopefully you rack up successes, right? As in like, oh, nice, first barbell deadlift at this weight. Nice work. Does your back hurt? No. Oh, it feels amazing. Great. As you start to rack up, then your mindset joins you in being that same confident force that you are.
Yeah. And another thing for me was having the confidence to say when you don't know stuff. So for me, it's like the Olympic lifts. Like I know the Olympic lifts and I could just bullshit my way through the session with somebody who doesn't already do them or isn't already an expert. But having the confidence to be like, I don't know the Olympic lifts well enough for you to pay me a lot of money to learn them from me, and that's okay, and I'm not hiding that. Whereas previously I'd be like, I'd probably like go home and like, read up again and like, think if I could wangle it. Whereas now it's kind of like, the confidence to not go past your limits in a bad way, like the real imposter, like Adrian was saying, I think will helps me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true. One of like my first mentors in fitness too, I loved what he told me to when I first started out. He was like, just try to be good at what you're good at too, because especially like, because I was working at a big box gym too, is you just get such a variety of people in there, and they want you to be like everything, right? They want you to teach you the Olympic lifts, or they want you to be their kickboxing coach or something. And it's like, well, if you don't know about that stuff, I mean, you don't have to try to pretend or something. Just be like, if you're really trying to be good at boxing, I'm not the boxing coach for you. This other trainer though is really good. I mean, they'll appreciate that in themselves, their honesty. So I think it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're new to imposter syndrome, then welcome to being a woman. That's basically society. Not to necessarily pull the gender card, but women have historically and through society systemically been trained to constantly doubt themselves. So a saying that I've heard that helps me a lot is, go forth with the confidence of a mediocre white man. Yeah. That usually helps me, because I've met a lot of very, very mediocre white men. So no offense to the white men on this call right now. I'm sure I'm
taken.
No, good. No, yeah, no, imposter.
No, that's an interesting thing though too, and I just think in general, there's typically with any sort of gym, there tends to be a lot more male trainers anyway, so it can be very difficult sometimes for the female trainers to be able to hold themselves up in that sort of environment. So
yeah, definitely a lot of I don't say cons, like difficulties, but also some upsides that I feel with female clients. I think there'd be a slight benefit, or at least with some of them.
Mm-hmm. This is not super off topic, but yeah, I saw this guy on TikTok the other day. He's like this big fitness guy on TikTok, and he does the one thing that really bugs me with male trainers, and I hope none of you guys ever do this.
Oh, what's this?
No, okay. Well, there's a lot of things that bother me about some male trainers, but especially like it's the male trainers that say all the time, I love working with women. I specialize in working with women and blah, blah, blah. And then when you actually see the way that they train, so this dude, he's like, you can picture him. He's like really buff, super visible muscles, always wears muscle tees, you know, works in a Southern climate, clearly, because in all of his videos, there's palm trees. And he's all about like, ladies, you got to get in the weight room, which is great. So a lot of his stuff I agree with. And I'm like, hey, rock on. He's like, ladies, you got to get in the weight room, got to lift heavy. That's the best way, blah, blah, blah. And he busts all these myths, you know, like waist trainers are stupid. So does some good. Great. But then he had this one video where he's like, don't be afraid of doing scary stuff or hard stuff, like a pull-up. Like, you can do a pull-up. You're strong enough. And he took this video of himself with this like line of women. And of course, they all look like models, right? You know, they're all wearing crop tops and leggings, and, you know, and one by one, they're like jumping up in front of him, and then he's grabbing them by the waist and then holding them up so that they can do like sort of an assisted pull up. And then he's
a forced rep. Yeah.
And then gently setting them down, and then he's picking up the next woman. And I'm just like, you know, there are a million other ways you can teach someone and train someone to do a pull up without putting your damn hands on them. Like, I can think of a million, like, if I had a male trainer and he's just like, here, I'm going to grab you by the waist and help you with this pull up, I'd be like, you know, you're not. Like, it's just gross. Like I love training women. I love putting my hands on them when I'm training them. And it's like,
what?
No, he doesn't actually say that, but in his video, constantly like someone's doing a squat, you know, and he's like right behind her, you know, like getting ready, you know, and I'm just like, just stop, dude. Just ugh.
Do you think it's on purpose? Do you think he thinks it makes people feel comfortable that he's touching like women on his social media?
Maybe. I mean, clearly it looks like he's very successful, so people eat it up. They love it. So, but yeah, it's just sort of, but not everyone is into that dynamic. Not everyone wants to have like some weird sexual tension with their trainer, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's got to be what's going on, because all of his women or female clients that he features all look a very certain way, and then he looks a very certain way, and I'm just like, not everyone's into that, and I just find that a little gross. But
yeah, it sounds like it's really for like Instagram. It sounds very like, it sounds unrealistic. Like, it just sounds weird. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But then I see that.
It sounds like he's paying them to be.
That's it. Crossed my mind.
It just upsets me, because then I think of like, you know, people who I know who want to get into fitness, and women who want to get into weightlifting and think like, oh, is that what it's going to be like? There's going to be some big buff and his hands all over me, and you know, and it's just like, absolutely not. Like,
actually, most trainers are shit scared to put their hands anywhere near you.
Yeah.
Actually,
I will ask your permission to tap you on the shoulder.
Well, and that's
it will be awkward.
That is absolutely, yeah. Because first of all, I don't care what you do, you need to ask permission before you put your hands on someone. Like, sorry, but it's just, you know, you don't know who's not okay with being touched.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been going to these like free deadlifting seminars at a local gym, and the trainer who's leading it, you know, he picked me out of the class to do like to help visual, or you know, to demonstrate something. And he was demonstrating like how to have a neutral spine and hinge and all this stuff, and he had me turn around so my back was to the class. And like, without even asking me, he just starts touching me on the shoulder, starts touching me on my back, touching me on the small of my back and everything. And I knew what he was doing. I wasn't upset, but still I'm like, you know, you didn't like ask permission. You didn't let me know where you were going to touch me before you touched me. And then he was like, and he's like, okay, now you demonstrated on me, you know, in front of the class. And so then I was like, is it okay if I touch you here?
Oh God.
Is that okay? And he's like,
oh my
what?
God.
I was like, oh, I'm just asking for consent. He's like, oh, okay.
Shit.
And I'm just like, yeah. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack that, but that's.
We literally had
good reminder.
In 2019, the Y I was at literally had their first ever training in that regard, where asking for consent for the trainers was a job requirement. So this place has been doing personal training and has been a fitness center for many years, and only in 2019 did they finally and you know, there were complaints as why it came up, But yeah, the consent, and the other one that's important is also like consent now does not mean consent later, right? So if
Exactly.
somebody says, you can help me to lift, like to come up and down in this set of pull-ups, doesn't mean that next week you can grab onto me either,
Mhm.
right? Like you've got to ask for consent every time.
Every
Right.
like day,
Every
but
time.
not for every tap.
No, not every tab, but like
Oh,
in the
so-
instance, right? Like for example, we're doing, band assisted pull-ups. Is it okay if I put my hand under your knee today to finish the last rep?
Mm.
And if they say yes, you could probably rely on them that, if in the third set they become uncomfortable, they're going to say something.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But the following week, right, I would say something like, we're going to do the pull-ups the same way we did last week, where my hand is under your knee to help you finish the reps. Are you cool with that? Right? Like get consent for the new training session, new consent for the thing.
Yeah.
New movement, new consent. Right. Yeah, that's super important.
No, I love that. Again, and I know I guess the reason why I talk a lot about like gender issues and training and stuff like that is just because, like I just want, it's one of my goals as a trainer to make fitness like as inclusive as possible, to all different types of people. And yeah, these are just, whenever I see something that, I feel like might hinder that goal of making fitness more inclusive, it does sort of get me riled up. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's why online training is great. Don't have to worry about the touching.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Takes that variable out.
Yeah. For the people who do online training, so my insurance just says I actually don't always do this when people join, especially if somebody joins late. But I'm only insured if I tell people to like clear the area, and I don't always do that. What do you guys do? Who I don't know who does these, but what do you do at the beginning of sessions, or what do you do for health and safety for the online sessions? Because I'm pretty lax with it, and I probably shouldn't be. And if this goes on YouTube, I'm lying, and that's not true, and don't sue me. But
I mean, I really just give guidelines at the beginning when I'm just starting to work with someone, and then obviously if something is really jumping out at me, like this is dangerous, I'll certainly say something about it. But I mean, generally I just had that conversation. It is your responsibility to ensure that your workout space is safe. And be careful with letting them use furniture if you do online training.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a table is not a bench. A table is not a bench.
Yeah. For stuff like dips, and then you get, so I've got this thing. Well, I dips is in some of my ones. So I'm getting people to do them on the floor, but then I am suggesting, well, like if you've got like a strong surface, use it. But it's not like I've checked the surface.
Yeah.
It is kind of sketchy, and the ones on the floor are just like terrible in comparison, obviously.
I mean, I'm a big advocate of encouraging people to get whatever fitness equipment they can get, because I think especially for online training, I mean, look, you're saving a lot of money by not having a gym membership. Like, throw that money into getting some awesome equipment for your home. Then you have it. Most of the stuff is like indestructible, so you're going to have it for years and years and years. So I just think it's a great investment, and it protects you as a trainer too, because now they can do the exercise on an actual sturdy weight bench or whatever it might be.
Yep. Yeah, I my guidance for myself is generally, if I can't see that it's clear, then I ask them. And then if we're ever going to use anything, I ask some questions about it, right? Like, for example, I have a guy who does box squats, sit stand in a chair for some of his exercises, and he uses his office chair. So I was like, hey, are the wheels locked? Because the last thing you want is, right, they come up, the chair rolls away, they come down, and they're just falling on the ground. They're actually doing bodyweight squats. Last time they did their first round of bodyweight squats, which was really nice. And so you got to ask lots of questions and be careful. But I think it's, what training helped me a lot. Have you ever done first aid training? If you arrive on the scene and there's somebody who's like down, the first thing you're supposed to do is to make sure that like you are not going to be the second person to fall down.
Yeah.
And in the first aid book, it's always this classic, like the person's on the ground in a puddle and there's like a live wire in that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sure I would have noticed that in real life, but the concept of it is pretty good. And so and then you know, I got lucky because I did security, and security you have to be really observant, but it's really saved people's bacon. Like I've had somebody unracking a squat rack and stepping back off the squat rack, and me sort of like stepping in their way and putting my hand on their back because they were just about to squat onto my client who's planking. Our gym was very busy, right? And just like you have to keep watch of hazards all the time, generally speaking, as part of your practice.
But did you ask for consent?
No, I didn't, because they're about to step on my client who's
I'm
planking.
just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's. Can I stop you from crushing this friendly person that pays me money? Aw. But yeah, that's funny. That's funny. That's good. Cool. I've got one more thing that I wanted to bring up, but again, if other people have things, please. Okay, cool. The thing that I wanted to ask about was everybody's thoughts on trying to help people to determine the amount of weight that they're lifting, and like 3 really common methods. So asking them reps in reserve. So do as many push-ups as you can, but like stop before 3 before you would fail. So if you think like 14 would be failure, do 11. So go until you have about 3 more in the tank, right? Reps in reserve, versus telling them to rate of perceived exertion. So out of 1 to 10, take it to a 7 out of 10, versus doing some percentage of 1 rep max when it's a weight, or a percentage of AMRAP if it's body weight or something. Does anybody have any insights on what they like, why they like it, how they use it?
I'm a big fan of reps in reserve. But I think we were talking about this maybe even last week, about how when you ask people, you might not necessarily get the like objectively truest response. But I just find it's much easier than doing like percentages, and it's really it means that you can tell people a rep range and a reps in reserve range, and then they can like regulate their own like lift.
Mm-hmm. And do you test them?
I mean, I would, the reps in reserve thing for clients, I would only do on the big lifts. So
right.
Do you mean as in, so go, okay, well, let's actually find out, because no, I don't do that. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
I think it would be dangerous if they're doing body, like if they're doing a high volume, high weight, like deadlift or something, right? But like push-ups or squats or something. You know, like if they're doing push-ups and you're like, okay, I want to see like 5 reps in reserve. Give me your push-up set. All right. And they bang out 12 push-ups. Do you ever go, okay, cool. After your 90-second rest, now give me 17 push-ups because you said that was your max.
No.
Is that your actual max?
No, but that reminds me, because I did reps in reserve for every exercise actually for an online client, because we were looking, because I was trying to get him to be able to like regulate his own exercise selection, basically. So when you move from a squat to a staggered squat, or like when you move from like a static lunge to a Bulgarian split squat. And I found, I never tested him. I probably should, but because there's 2 sets each time, it's kind of a makeshift test. So if he hits 15 reps and says he's got 5 in reserve, and then on the next set he hits, he can't hit 15, then it's like, well, he probably didn't have 5 in reserve. So in a way, you can kind of see it from there. If that made sense. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm mixing them up is sort of why I'm bringing this up. Because that was the big thing about reps in reserve that I was feeling, was like it'd be super easy to test, right? And I did that just recently and it worked. I mean, they're off by 1 or 2, but they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Does anybody do our RPE? Like, give me a number out of 1 to 10 how hard this is.
Yeah, I do it, especially for total beginners. I think I like it better, especially because if they're not like totally comfortable with the movement, I think sometimes thinking, how many reps they have in reserve, it just doesn't work out as well. So just kind of the psychological feeling, well, how are you feeling? Is this really, really tough for you? Is this kind of easy for you? Because I think when you're just starting out in fitness, there's the whole psychology of it as well. And I don't think everything is calibrated correctly all the time. It's like, maybe you could do many more reps of this, but psychologically you can't do it right now. So sometimes I think rate of perceived exertion is good.
Yeah, and that's the one that I've been leaning on so much for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get stagnant, right? I want to.
Yeah.
And does anyone do percent rep max for any training?
Only for strength clients, someone who's actually interested on targeting the big lifts and I really want to increase my barbell squat numbers this quarter. But for most, like for my mum who just wants to lose weight, I mean, like I have no idea really what her 1% rep max deadlift is, because I've never got her to go for a heavy single deadlift because it's not appropriate. And I know there are calculators you can use and whatnot, but I think I agree with what Daniel said, and for that reason I sort of tend to use RPE and reps in reserve. So if I'm asking them both, you sort of get a fuller picture, especially where they're new, and being able to tell these things accurately is not a skill they've really acquired yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one rep max can be hard, right? Unless they're, experienced lifters, because, otherwise it's kind of dangerous to take them all the way up to their 1 rep max. So, but it's definitely a really great method. But I'm very selective about who I use it on.
But people like when my understanding is when we're talking about 1 rep max, it's not that you necessarily use the 1 rep max. It's like, say, for example, your training max is, I think it's in like Wendler or maybe starting strength, where it's like your training maxes out to 90% of what your predicted 1 rep max is. So it's like you make the calculations off the 1 rep max. You don't necessarily go there, because otherwise that'd be nuts.
The theoretical, the theoretical 1 rep max versus the actual. Yeah.
I can think of one client in the past little while where I've actually done 1 rep max, but they were a strength client, and it was the 3rd time testing. The first 2 times we tested off a 4 rep max, because there's the app and you can Google it pretty quick, and so 4 rep max is way safer than 1 rep max. Then you can do your 1 rep max calculation off of 4 rep max, and then you plug in that 1 rep max number into your program that you've got that then breaks that out. So that totally works that way. But yeah, I totally agree in the sense that it's like it's only appropriate for somebody who's literally journaling the numbers on the side of the weights and wants to see those numbers go up specifically.
How accurate do you find like percentage of your 1 rep max? Because I've found that for myself when I'm training and I'm aiming, for say 80%, and usually what's like say 80% is what, like how many reps? Like 5 reps ish.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, my instinct said 8, but I'm just completely pulling that out of
you could depending on what you're training for. Yeah, you could vary that up. But go ahead. What were you thinking?
So, for example, just for a random example, say I'm doing deadlifts, and I get to 90 kg, and I can just about do 5 or 6 reps.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's probably like 80-85% of my 1 rep max, which would mean like,
oh no, you use the calculator. There's an easy calculator for that.
Yeah,
but I think what you're saying is that you find that it varies too much. Like you're actually sometimes, so if you tested it out, sometimes you would easily hit that 1 rep, and sometimes you couldn't hit that 1 rep, and that it varies quite a lot. Yeah, I think
I go for my 1 rep max, and I'm like, okay, I'll go and I'll do 100, but I'm like, that was my 1 rep max. Whereas, like, say for example, the calculator said it would be 110.
Yeah. No, I've certainly found that. That's why, for me, I use the reps in reserve for myself as well. And I think that the 1 rep max like calculators and the 10 rep max calculators from the 1 rep max, I think they're supposed to be with a pinch of salt. I think like there's just so many variables. They are supposed to be like pinch of salt, but it's better than having 0 guess at it. And it'll vary even like per lift, right? I'd even venture to say like the percentage of like fast twitch, slow twitch fibers, but things like that. Just so many variables, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's going to make a big difference on what rep number you're calculating it by. Like this, I lifted this weight at, I could do it 2 reps or 3 reps or 4 reps, and I'm trying to figure out what the theoretical 1 rep max is. I mean, you can't just take, I lifted this 12 times and necessarily try to figure out, Okay, well, that means that you can do a 225 deadlift. Well, not necessarily, because that's a completely different type of training, right? Maybe you were working hypertrophy and now you have to do a max strength type of training. So, the neurological adaptations might not actually be there for you to do that. So I think it's like, the closer you get to the 1 rep max, the more accurate it's going to be.
To exaggerate that example, say you for 5 years you've been training and all you've ever done is 1 rep maxes, you're gonna get like a difficult result for your like 10 rep max compared to somebody who does every other day they do only 1 rep maxes or only 10 rep maxes, because you do just adapt to the stimulus.
Absolutely.
So I totally agree with that, and I think that only the reason the third time I was testing their strength was a true 1 rep max. The other time were 4 rep max, is exactly that. They also had knee issues, so their deadlift was way stronger than their 1 rep max squat. As a proportion to each other, in proportion to their body weight, according to the calculator, they're way off. Right. And yeah, so you do have to, that's a nice thing that you can sort of weave into your marketing, is that like, look, these generic calculators online are not going to replace a personal trainer, right? Because I'm going to see when your form starts to fall apart and what you think was a 1 rep max is actually not a successful rep. It wasn't unsuccessful because you got crushed by the bar. It was unsuccessful because you couldn't perform the rep with correct technique. Right. So we actually need to come down. So yes, the squat, you survived the squat, but that's not a true 1 rep max for you. Right. And you can market yourself that way. So I'm going to try reps in reserves more, because I think that RPE is limiting me. So that's why I wanted to ask about it.
I mean, my way of viewing like RPE is just that it's extremely similar to reps in reserve, right? Especially compared to like % 1 rep max. I see them as just extremely similar, especially at like low rep ranges. Because it's like, well, I had 1 rep in reserve and it was 9 out of 10 difficult. And then, a lot of the time it's like, well, I had 2 reps in reserve and it was like, do you see what I mean? They actually fit in quite nicely at the low rep ranges, at least, or they can do. So I just think of them as very similar, and then they're much more useful when you get to higher rep ranges.
Yeah. I have 2 clients that have for years now have no concept of their the number, and so like everything's like a 6 out of 10 until it's an 11. And you're like, how is it possible that you're bench pressing this weight for 6 repetitions, but when we get to 8, it's utter failure completely, your form is completely falling apart. But you told me 6 reps was like a 6 out of 10, and just 2 more reps is an 11 out of 10. How is it? And so I've adapted to that person, where like I'm constantly not screaming at them obviously, but I'm joking around with them like, all right, we want a solid 2 out of 10 effort on this one. Okay, so we're going to do deadlifts. If it gets harder than a 2 out of 10, I need you to stop. Okay, there's a warm-up set, and they're still doing what everybody else would call a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
and you just like get to know the person, right?
Yeah. You gotta like auto adjust. You gotta calibrate even.
Yeah. Put the calculator in. 7 out of 10 equals 14. Okay, watch out. They're gonna die. Cool. Yeah, that was my thing. That was what I wanted to ask about.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for bringing things, Adrian. I'll make sure that I bring some interesting stuff next week. And Jake said Jake's on holiday, I think, but he'll be back. He'll be back soon.
Yep.
Anything else you guys want to discuss? Anyone?
Yeah, I was going to say that next week, if we want to talk about sales strategies or practice some strategies you guys can use in consults, I'd be happy to walk you guys through some techniques that work in all sales environments. So they can be applicable to a lot of things. Like one thing, and I'm sure that if you guys have, especially you guys who are experienced, hopefully you guys are pretty good at reflecting and active listening during consults, but we could always use practice. Like something that I do every once in a while is have a conversation with someone and see how long I can respond only with questions before I actually, it's it's actually a little exercise. Sometimes with my colleagues, we do that. We only ask each other questions and never actually answer them, just to practice that, like, you know, that active listening, that reflecting, that digging deep and really trying to get to the root of the problem instead of, you know, just immediately going into your spiel. And because I feel like, especially in a consult or when you first have an inquiry, approaching it from a sorting standpoint instead of a selling standpoint, like trying to sort that person into, okay, are they actually qualified? Like, how qualified are they to actually sign with me, or are they just looking for a free consult? Because even though we technically give free consultations, sometimes as trainers, we don't have to give away a lot of our time for free and actually like present for free and give out a bunch of information for free. Without the right training, you can just, like, as soon as someone's like, I'm interested in training, you can go into a big 20-minute spiel about everything you can offer. And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, thanks, I'll call you. And then you never hear from them again, and you just wasted all that time. So.
Yes, this is a huge thing in motivational interviewing, and I struggle with it still. It's like when they say something and you in your head have the exact solution to the thing they just said, but you need to just like shut up, like, and shut up. And that's,
it's really hard. It's really hard. Like I have to, like, when I first went through my, transformation, and people would ask me like, oh, how did you lose the weight? How did you get fit? I used to be like, well, let me tell you, and then I just blah, 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 and I would just go, this is what I did, and I'm sure they're probably like, wow.
But at least they asked, like in that scenario, they asked at least.
That's true. First of all, they asked me, but two, they're probably like, this psycho, I regret asking. Whereas now when they're like, oh, your transformation is so amazing, I want to do that too. I'm like, okay, well, what do you feel like you're struggling with the most right now? Okay, what have you tried in the past, and how did that go for you? And what realistically do you feel like you have time for in your life right now? And it's just so instead I give more tailored advice instead of like, let me just word vomit all of the information that I know, so I can scare you off. But yeah, so it's a skill that we could always practice on. So I can certainly bring some of that to the table next week.
Yeah. I like, as far as I'm concerned, that'd be awesome. Yeah. That's I mean, I guess this is probably a difficult question. Do you have any idea how sort of long you'd want?
Yeah, I mean definitely like a minimum of 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a stupid question, because as long as it's not more than like an hour, I'm sure we'll be
No, because I mean, I have a lot of training, so I'm going to go through my materials and try to parse out what would be applicable to, the training type of environment.
Nice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And also real quick, I just want to give a shout out to, I'm sorry, is your name Chris? CPS fitness coach, is that you? Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I just want to give you a shout out. Your social media is on point. I love it. Everyone, if you guys are not following Chris on Instagram, he is creating such awesome content right now.
And consistently, I need to be on Instagram more, and every time I go on and Chris is one of the top like posts, I'm just like, yes, love.
Exactly, same. So yeah, if y'all are feeling insecure about your social media or feeling like you need some ideas, just steal Chris's ideas and make it your own.
Awesome.
So yeah, great job. I just want to say I really like what you're doing.
Yeah, social media is something I always like, literally until like a month, like 5-6 weeks ago, I hated posting things on social media. And then I saw this challenge that was like, post twice a day for 7 days. And I did that, and then I just stayed in the rhythm, and it just kind of helped to kind of keep that momentum up. So like for the past maybe like 5-6 weeks, I've been posting at least once, maybe twice a day, most days.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't seen his Instagram, he's creating a lot of content that just answers questions. And there are I feel like from what I see, there are a lot of common questions that people have, which I think is a great place to get started with content for your social media, because I think a lot of us forget how much the general public doesn't know.
Yeah.
So answering simple questions, how much water should I be drinking? Do I need to take pre-workout, or, do I need to take drink protein shake. I mean, just silly things that, you know, we're like, well, of course, or of course not, or, you know, but people don't know. So just coming up with a list of common questions and just answering them is a great, easy way to get content.